welcome to the Gadgets and Gizmos show on Headlines Today. I'm Siddharth Sharma and we are joined today by Sahil Gupta, who's an assistant editor with India Today Online. Welcome Sahil on the show.
Thanks for having me, man.
So how do you think the smartphone market fared this week?
It's very interesting.
It's very interesting and that's what we've got on this episode. Alright, that's our lineup on the show and we'll have to wait for the Xiaomi Mi 3. I know you want to know more about it, but there's one more company that's come to India. And this one is called OBI. It's named after a star and it's got its new smartphone in town. This one is the OBI Octopus S520. This is the OBI Octopus S520. It comes with a 5-inch display with a pixel density of 293 ppi. Runs on Android 4.4.2 KitKat operating system and at its heart beats a 1.7 GHz octa-core MediaTek MT6592 processor with 1 GB of RAM. The camera on the OBI Octopus is 8 megapixel with LED flash. There is also a 2 megapixel front-facing camera. This is a dual SIM smartphone with an internal storage of 8 GB, expandable up to 32 GB. OBI Octopus S520 houses a lithium-ion removable battery with a capacity of 1800 mAh. And Sahil and me both use this smartphone. So first impressions, what were the first impressions that you had when you had the smartphone?
You know, for a first phone from an Indian company, it's not too bad. Like, I decently relatively like the design, but it's really, if you can see, it's in some way inspired by the iPhone.
Well, iPhone it's inspired by because it's got a name attached to it known as John Scully, who's an ex-Apple CEO, and that's why you see those familiar design lines on the OBI Octopus S520 over there. But overall, the design has been very comfortable to hold. It's lightweight as well. But the shoddy build quality, they could have just engraved their logo on the smartphone. You and me both saw that. We'll just put up a picture for you guys on the show that the logo on the phone just came off. It's been stuck by a quick fix. Overall, when we talk about the display on this smartphone, it has a 720p display on it, which is about okay. It's not one of the best displays that you will find on a smartphone. But here's the thing. When it comes to performance, this one has the same octa-core processor that everyone has been running. What's the deal with this?
So MediaTek has been making this octa-core CPU, and in fact these guys have underclocked the CPU to improve the battery life of it. So it's a Cortex A7 chipset with 8 cores. It's a mid-range chipset. Like octa-core is basically a marketing buzzword. It's not exactly a really high-performance chipset.
And we've seen this in the past that many of the quad-core smartphones perform better than this octa-core chip. So that is not much of a USP.
It looks tempting, but again, in this case, you have lesser RAM. This one only has 1 GB of RAM. And plus, you have got some really formidable competition coming.
And when they underclocked the CPU, what they did was, in a way, improve the battery life. And why they had to do that was because it houses just an 1800 mAh battery. And how much did that last with you,
around 8 to 10 hours, which is average or slightly above average, but considering it's only a 1800 mAh battery and it has an octa-core chipset, not too bad.
We can never get enough of battery on our smartphones, can we? Now, when we talk about the camera on this smartphone, it houses an 8 megapixel rear camera, which is grainy. The pictures don't come out that great, and of course, low light imaging is just a no-no. If you go out clubbing, this is not the camera to click pictures, isn't it? And we've tried that and it didn't work out that well. Up front, it has a 2 megapixel camera for selfies. Overall, the smartphone is just about okay. It offers everything similar that all the octa-core smartphones right now are offering. But here is this unique selling point on the OBI Octopus S520. For a processor that is not that great, considering it's an octa-core smartphone, it just comes at a price tag of 11,900 rupees. And don't you think that's just about the right price to pay for an octa-core smartphone?
So the price, I feel it's a little expensive.
No, but if you are an octa-core junkie, don't you think this is the right price to pay for it instead of a 20,000 rupee Micromax canvas night?
Yeah, if you are hell-bent on an octa-core chipset, then this is probably the cheapest one out there.
So if you are an octa-core junkie and if you want to go for that octa-core smartphone, maybe this is the one to go for because it is priced just right by OBI over there. Okay, so we see a lot of Chinese smartphone manufacturers come to India, and recently one more Chinese company came to India. It trended on Twitter and it's pronounced like how, Sahil?
Xiaomi.
It's pronounced as Xiaomi, written with an X. They are totally trying to teach us Mandarin. So first, before we tell you all about that smartphone, let's tell you what the specs are like. This is the smartphone that Xiaomi has launched in India. It's called the Xiaomi Mi3. Available only online at a price tag of Rs 13,999 rupees, this smartphone packs in a lot of features. Up front, it has a 5-inch Full HD 1080p IPS display, enabling super crisp details and incredible viewing angles. Mi3 is powered by a 2.3 GHz Qualcomm Snapdragon 800 AB processor. The primary camera is a 13-megapixel one with dual LED flash and industry-leading HDR functionality for amazing photos. Xiaomi Mi3 supports high-speed HSPA Plus 3G connectivity up to 42 Mbps. And to top it all, it has a 3050 mAh internal battery. With all this packed in, this makes it a lucrative smartphone with just a slight hitch. It's Chinese. So Sahil, you've reviewed this smartphone. You've been using it for about 2 weeks, even before it launched. So what was your overall impression, especially in terms of the design? Let's start with the design first.
So interestingly, this is not the first Xiaomi phone I've seen. I used to use a Mi 2S. So the design is quite similar to the Nokia Lumia 800, the N9, but it has got these beveled curves on the side, but it's flat on the back, so it's not exactly comfortable to hold. Otherwise, build quality wise, it's quite superlative because it's got an aluminium and magnesium frame inside, even though it's covered by plastic on the outside. It's a really premium phone.
So, you know, the Xiaomi Mi 3 was also trending a lot on Twitter and people were going gaga about its screen, about its camera. So tell us a little bit about its display as well.
So Xiaomi uses a 5-inch IPS 1080p display, full HD resolution. They've sourced this display from JDI and Sharp. So Apple also sources its displays for the iPhone and the iPad from JDI and Sharp. So it's a very high quality display, great color fidelity, brilliant viewing angles, and it's quite bright also. So especially under direct sunlight, you can view your content pretty easily, and it's not like one of those AMOLED panels that you find on Samsung phones.
Talking about the processing power, you know, this phone is priced very sweetly in that under 15,000 rupee category. And it packs in a lot of punch, and especially in terms of the processing power. So tell us a bit more about, you know, what goes behind putting all those components that we usually see in a 40,000 above phone now coming in a 15,000 rupee phone.
So this one has the Qualcomm Snapdragon 800 quad-core chipset, which we saw earlier last year in the Sony Xperia Z1, the LG G2, earlier this year in the Z1 Compact. So this is like a flagship chipset. And the version of the Snapdragon 800 that Xiaomi is using, they claim it's 20% faster than the ones their competitors have used. Performance is really good, and this chipset works in tandem with 2 GB of RAM, which has been sourced by SanDisk. And then you have got 16 GB of internal memory. Unfortunately, there's no micro SD card slot, but processing power is very good. It's like a flagship class phone.
But don't you think, you know, there's a little bit of taboo with the smartphone that, you know, a name that you can't pronounce, a name that you can't even write, you know, people would still love it?
The thing about Xiaomi is it's a 3-year-old company, and it has been started up by people who have worked in Microsoft. Google's former Google employee Hugo Barra, who was the face of Android for like between 2012 and 2013, is their VP, and he's heading global operations. So you have got some of the most intelligent people on the planet running this company.
Now this one interestingly also has a more than 3000, I think a 30-50 milliampere battery on it, which has given very good performance. I've been reading about it. So tell us a little bit more about that. Do you think it lasts more than what normal smartphones usually do?
You see, like in my testing, I could easily get through a day. Sometimes with light usage, I would get a day and a half. In terms of battery life, it's pretty brilliant, especially for its price. You come back to the price all the time with this phone. It's a game changer that way. It does not have a software enabled power saver mode. There are certain functions like you can improve the performance and you can have a balance mode, or you can have a low power mode, but it does not have a battery saver mode like Samsung Galaxy S5 or Xperia Z2, but the battery life is generally pretty good.
Now, one interesting thing about the Xiaomi Mi 3 is that if you are using a smartphone, a modern day smartphone, which usually has a micro SIM card or a nano SIM card, this one actually has a regular SIM slot in it. So if you're going to buy that, make sure you go to your operator and get that SIM changed. Isn't that true?
Yeah. The first time I opened it, I had a bit of a problem because we use so many review units and most of them have micro SIMs or nano SIMs in the case of some of the HTC and iPhones.
So Sahil, how was your experience when it came to the camera on the Xiaomi Mi 3?
Under 20,000, this is the best camera you can find. And in fact, this camera will compete with phones that cost above 30,000. In fact, even the Google Nexus 5, this just blows it away. So it's got a 13 megapixel camera, it's a Sony Exmor sensor, f2.2 aperture and a 28mm wide angle lens. The flash has been sourced from Philips. Overall, it's a very good camera. The camera interface is also quite interesting because MIUI, they have a custom camera app which has a simple mode which works pretty similar to the one we see on the iPhone, but it also allows for a lot of granular control. So this means that you can have a lot of manual settings, you can control the exposure levels, especially the panorama mode and the HDR on this phone, particularly the HDR. Amazing.
All right, brilliant. So overall verdict, what's your take on the Xiaomi Mi 3?
At this price, there's no better phone. Like in fact, you would be hard pressed to get a device like this for even 30,000 bucks. So this is an absolute game changer.
So there you go. So I'll say that the Xiaomi Mi 3 is a definite buy. Now moving on from all the Chinese smartphone action, LG also recently came out with its new flagship smartphone. You've had a hands-on on that one, I've had a hands-on with that one, and we kind of like the smartphone. Yes, we're talking about the all-new LG G3, and up next, let's tell you all about this smartphone.
LG G3 is finally here in India, but is it worth the hype? The new LG G3 flagship sports 5.5-inch 1440 by 2560 QHD pixel resolution screen, which provides the super crisp 538 pixels per inch. Dimensions are pretty compact for the screen size, resulting in excellent 76.4% screen to body size ratio. The Android 4.4 KitKat based handset is powered by quad-core Snapdragon 801 and 3 GB of LPDDR3 RAM. It features 32 GB of internal storage and a micro SD slot. The main 13 megapixel rear shooter comes with the company's improved optical image stabilization plus and has a laser autofocus assist beam which delivers fast focus even in low light scenarios. There is also a 2.1 megapixel front facing camera for selfies. LG G3 is priced in India for 47,990 rupees.
Microsoft, after acquiring Nokia, is trying to kill the essence of the entire company, a company that we all grew up with and have memories attached to. So up next on the show, we pay a tribute to all the Nokia smart devices that you and me have an attachment with. If we say think about a mobile phone company to you, 9 out of 10 people will be thinking of this. Nokia, a company that in 1970 involved itself in the telecommunication industry by developing the Nokia DX200, a digital switch for telephone exchanges. They would have never guessed what a success story they will make in the following decades. And now that Microsoft is all set to kill the giant, what we thought of was try telling them that they have made some really great phones and the best is still to come. So let's go down the memory lane and get you the top Nokia smartphones and why they were a hit. Released in 1994, the Nokia 2110 was the first mobile phone capable of sending SMS and the first to offer Nokia's now unmistakable ringtone. It also included the ability to store the last 10 dialed, received and missed calls. Now how cool was that for the year 1994? One of Nokia's best-selling phones, the Nokia 3310. At over 125 million units, the 3310's enormous success stemmed from its sturdy construction. This non-destructive device was the first mobile phone to allow users to send 3 SMS messages in one. Also Snake, the game we loved. Like the 3310, this smartphone had a sturdy build quality and Snake, the Nokia 1100. But the USP for this one was the torch it offered. Certainly a pioneer effort in getting all you guys that flashlight idea on your modern smartphones. Weighing almost 400 grams with 8 MB of memory, the Nokia 9000 communicator included a 24 MHz processor, a 4.5-inch monochrome display and cost more than a desktop computer's back then. Introduced in 1996, the 9000 deserves to be on the list. And also, QWERTY keyboards were a first on this smartphone. Another of Nokia's foray into slider form factor, the 7650's claim to fame was its built-in digital camera. Nokia's first in a phone, the only capable of capturing images at a resolution of 640 by 480. When it was first launched in late 2000, the 7650 pioneered the idea of putting a camera in a mobile phone to the delight of many consumers. Now everyone had this phone in the first decade of 21st century. From movie stars to the common man, this was the phone to have. Just look at it. We are sure everyone has a story to tell about this one, the Nokia 6600. Nokia N95 released the same year as the original iPhone, and it slid open in 2 directions. Moving one way revealed a regular numeric keypad, while sliding it the other way allowed access to dedicated media playback controls. With its wide array of multimedia capabilities and hardware such as GPS and an accelerometer, the N95 was one of the first mobile phones deserving of a smartphone moniker. Nokia's E-series handset set the bar for business devices before BlackBerry. The E71 included a full QWERTY keyboard and support for Wi-Fi and dedicated keys for functions like calendar, contacts and email. It also included a 3.2 megapixel rear camera and Nokia's mapping software. Beat that, modern business phone makers. Nokia has long prided itself on the quality of its cameras, and the 808 PureView has the dual accolade of being the phone with the world's largest sensor and resolution and the last device to run Symbian operating system. 41 megapixel guys, that was the stuff. This is by far the best camera smartphone money can buy, the Nokia Lumia 1020. Even if you use an iPhone, you can still swear by the Lumia 1020's camera. That is how good it is. So hey Microsoft, before you try to shut shop on this mobile great, Just try opening your windows and see the world with Nokia's view. Alright Sahil, we saw that tribute package and it kind of makes us nostalgic, doesn't it? What was your favorite pick among all those smartphones?
Which was really hard to choose because some of the devices I've owned in the past, like the 6600, the N95, the 1020 was something I always wanted to buy but never got around buying. The 808 PureView is nostalgic because it was the last Symbian device, and Symbian was the OS that started the smartphone war.
But it almost looks like you're gonna cry looking at that package and being nostalgic and all that. But my favorite pick out of that lot was the Nokia 7650, purely because it was the first smartphone to have a camera on it, and in those times that was really cool. And with that, it's time for us to say goodbye on this edition of Gadgets and Gizmos show. If you have any comments, queries or suggestions, tweet us at HLT Gizmos. You can also email us on htgg@aajtak.com. We'll see you same time, same place next week. But for all the news and updates, keep watching Headlines Today.